6.5 hours to go until polling stations close. Just a note that, in fact, if you are still in the queue at that time, you will still be able to vote. Now, there is a lot of information coming from across the country, and as always, we'd like to get you some perspective on that information. Joining us in studio on our panel of guests, Karima Brown, political analyst, and sitting to her left, Sizwe Mpofu-Walsh, who is an author and analyst. Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
So it's been a very interesting morning. We've heard so many stories from our reporters across the country, Karima. 6 people arrested in KwaZulu-Natal, 14 voting stations disrupted. We can't say entirely that it's all smooth sailing, given that.
Look, this was predicted. KwaZulu-Natal and the Northwest were identified as potential hotspots. I actually spoke with the brigadier of the Northwest last night about the fact that the army was also going to be brought in, because in the afternoon they said the army doesn't deal with civilian issues. And so I asked who's in charge of this operation. So it's police-led. The army will assist. They will take their cue from, people. KZN was always going to be a hotspot. This morning, Ken Papela told Annika that, for example, some, tents were stolen during the night and so on. And remember, this was all sparked by the burning of a car of an IEC official. So I'm unsurprised that there is violence in KwaZulu-Natal. We've been covering the Moerane Commission of Inquiry, the killing of councillors. Political intolerance is quite high in that province. So I'm unsurprised. What I'm concerned about is whether we have public order policing that can actually hold the peace, because that is the difficulty that the South African police have always had in dealing with protesters. How do you respond? And when I asked the brigadier last night, he said, look, it's public order policing, but there's also other aspects of policing. There's intelligence work that needs to happen and so on. Because if you have a situation, Shahan, where you have protesters who have the right to protest and you have people who have the right to vote, and there's a clash, it's the police that must be the arbiter, and they must do it in such a way that they don't inflame the situation. And the police doesn't have a good track record in terms of that, because our public order policing is so weak. So I'm hoping that in KwaZulu-Natal, that the way in which the police responds is sensitive to allowing people to exercise their rights, to both vote and to protest. But of course, no one is allowed to destroy property. No one is allowed to burn buildings down. And I think those are acts of criminality, and the law must take its course in those instances.
I mean, today particularly, it's a big ask to keep the peace. We've got 22,924 polling stations. As of 2 o'clock, I believe the number we saw on screen was that 9 voting stations, there it is now, 9 voting stations not opened by 2 o'clock this afternoon. By all accounts, I mean, the IEC is not going to tell us it's not smooth sailing, but by all accounts, they're doing a good job.
I think so. I think we do need to put this in context. I'm confident that the IEC statements yesterday, Simon Mpofu-Walsh saying that they're ready to deliver this election, are true, and that this election will happen without any special event. As you say, I think with 22,000...
Let's interrupt you for a second. We're going to try and work on your mic. Sorry about that. Karima, let's pick up with you then about what people are saying as they wait in these lines.
Yeah.
I've seen people tweeting that I'm an ANC member, for instance, but I'm not voting for the ANC because it's time for a shake-up.
Yeah.
Those are the things that people are saying as they go and prepare to make that move.
I was in the queue this morning. I went to Dunkeld Bowling Club because I used to work for Business Day and it was around the corner. So as you know, you can vote anywhere in the country for your national vote. And because I live in the province of Gauteng, I could vote anywhere. And that's actually quite interesting, because a lot of people don't know that. When I went to go get my snacks to come here at Woolies, and when I to go get my hair done, the workers there didn't know that they could go and vote quickly in their lunchtime. They all thought they had to work and then go and stand in long queues in the townships where they're living. So there's a lot of information that still actually needs to be put out. The IEC needs to reinforce the message that you can vote anywhere in the country on a national ballot, but if you're from a certain province, you must vote in that province where you live. And I think that's one of the most important messages that really hasn't come across, there is a lot of ignorance. People think they must vote there where they registered, and given the fact that a lot of people are not given the time off, even though today is a public holiday, a paid public holiday, I think we need to constantly remind our voters and our citizens that they can vote anywhere in the country. And if you live in the province where you vote, you can also vote anywhere. You don't have to go to any particular station. In fact, one person on Facebook was saying the white voting stations are orderly, the queues are not long. Just get people into a kumbi and take them there, and it'll go very quick. And that was my advice to the hairdressers this morning. I said, you in Hyde Park, in your lunch break, just go to the bowling centre and go and make your cross. You don't have to wait until 7 o'clock tonight when you get home and go and stand in a long queue in Tokoza or in Katlehong.
Yeah, I mean, that's such a loaded statement you're making there, and I want to unpack it with you both in just a moment. But let's just cut out of this